Welcome the anointed ones. Some are born to follow orders. Others are born to dismantle the entire system. Let's be real. If your life has felt like a mix between a spiritual boot camp, an emotional obstacle course, and a psychological chess match, you're not crazy. You're probably chosen. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Oh great, another chosen one," cliché, pause. This isn't about crystals and destiny speeches with dramatic background music. This is about cold, hard truth wrapped in mystery, struggle, and a slightly inappropriate sense of humor that got you through most of it. Here's the fact. Studies in epigenetics have shown that trauma and resilience can be inherited across generations. That means you didn't just wake up different. You were built different, forged in the fire of battles your ancestors didn't finish. But you will, and the most dangerous part, you remember who you are, even when the world gaslit you into forgetting. Ever wondered why the odds always seem stacked against you? Why you're underestimated, misread, or labeled the black sheep? Even when you're usually the one carrying the wisdom, the weight, and the Wi-Fi password to other people's breakthroughs. It's not bad luck, it's by design. Because when you're born to break patterns, expose lies, and shift timelines, you're not just inconvenient. You're a walking threat to everything built on control, fear, and illusion. Welcome to the truth behind it all. Let's unravel exactly why you were marked since birth, and why they should be scared you're still standing. Number 1. You carry a memory that isn't yours, but it threatens power. You carry a memory that isn't just yours. It's deeper than childhood, deeper than anything you've lived through in this lifetime. It's the weight you felt in your gut when you entered certain places. It's the voice in your head warning you before the danger shows up. It's the sense of déjà vu that hits so hard you feel like time cracked open for a second. That memory, it's ancestral, it's spiritual, and it threatens the entire system. You were born with coded information. Not facts you learned in school, but truths you just knew, before anyone taught you anything. You've had moments where someone tried to gaslight you, rewrite your reality, and something inside you screamed, "They're lying." That instinct isn't just intuition. It's memory encoded into your blood, passed down through generations who fought to keep it alive. The ones who survived when they weren't supposed to. The ones who saw through the lies and paid for it. You're the continuation of that rebellion, and that makes you dangerous. They don't want people like you remembering. Because when you remember, you break free. And when you break free, others notice. You activate people. You make them question things they were taught not to question. You destabilize the illusion of safety built around silence. And suddenly, the whole system starts shaking. That's why the targeting started early, before you even knew what was happening. The chaos, the isolation, the attacks, they weren't random. They were preemptive strikes. Not against who you are now, but against what you're capable of becoming. You weren't just born different. You were born as a continuation of a mission that started long before you had a name. The memory lives in your nervous system, in your reactions, in your resistance. And the system knows, when someone like you fully remembers, not just in the mind, but in action, they can't control you. They can't stop you. You stop them. That's why they've been after you since birth. Because even in silence, even before awakening, you've always carried the key they hoped you'd never find. Number 2, you're a mirror that shatters illusions. You don't just walk into a room, you shift the temperature of it. People feel it even if they don't know what it is. Some are drawn to you instantly. Others get uncomfortable. Not because you said anything wrong, not because you did anything loud, but because you reflect back what's real. And most people are hiding from what's real. You're a mirror, not the kind that flatters or distorts, but the kind that shows people who they actually are underneath the performance. That's dangerous. Because most people survive by pretending they're happy, pretending they're in control, pretending they believe the things they were taught. You walk in, and suddenly they can't pretend as easily. You don't give them space to stay fake without feeling it. That alone makes you a threat. They can't put their finger on why you unsettle them. Maybe it's the way you don't laugh at forced jokes. Maybe it's the way you don't try to fit in. Maybe it's how you can feel the tension in someone's smile and know it's covering pain. You don't say it out loud, but your presence speaks truth. You notice what others are trained to ignore, and they feel that deep down, even if they won't admit it. You weren't built to just blend in. You were built to expose, not to hurt, not to judge, but to reveal. You bring awareness that forces reflection. And reflection is terrifying for those who've spent their lives avoiding it. So they label you too intense, too deep, too much, because it's easier than facing themselves. It's not your fault that you can see through the masks. You didn't ask for this radar, but you've got it. And the moment people realize you see them clearly, they either respect you or try to run from you. Not because you're bad, but because your truth disrupts their comfort. That makes you powerful. And power, especially when it can't be manipulated or masked, always gets labeled dangerous. Number 3, you were born outside their script. You were never meant to fit the script they handed you. From the start, the rules felt off. School didn't feel like learning, it felt like programming. Authority didn't feel like protection, it felt like surveillance. Every time someone tried to put you in a box, you either questioned it or quietly rebelled. Not because you were trying to cause problems, but because something in you knew the setup wasn't made for you. It was made to contain you. That's why you were labeled early: difficult, disruptive, too sensitive, too curious. They tried to pathologize what they couldn't control. They called it a phase, a disorder, a bad attitude. But really it was awareness. You noticed when things didn't add up. You heard the lies buried in polite sentences. You felt the energy in rooms before anyone spoke. You weren't naive, you were alert. And alert kids don't blend into systems built on blind obedience. They don't like that. The world's structures rely on people following scripts. Go to school, get a job, keep quiet, don't ask too many questions. But you couldn't fake it, even when you tried. You saw through things people twice your age still fall for. That kind of perception isn't welcomed, it's treated like a threat. And so the pressure started early. To shrink, to dumb down, to numb out, to pretend you didn't notice. They used shame, distraction, punishment, whatever they could to pull you back in line. But you didn't fold the way they wanted. You questioned the script instead of memorizing it. You looked for other paths even when everyone told you there weren't any. And you found something most don't: your own rhythm. That rhythm doesn't run on approval, trends, or control. That rhythm is yours, and it doesn't play by their rules. That's why they came for you so young. Not because you were broken, but because you were unprogrammable. And in a world built on systems, being unprogrammable is the most dangerous thing you can be. Number 4, you decode lies without trying. You don't go looking for lies. They reveal themselves to you. It's not something you force. It's automatic. Someone could be smiling, saying all the right things, playing their part perfectly, and still, something in you just knows. You catch the hesitation in their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the energy behind their words. It's not about evidence, it's about frequency. You feel when something is off before it even hits the surface. This isn't some party trick. It's a built-in survival skill, sharpened by past lives, ancestral trauma, and hard-earned experience. You've been around manipulation long enough to recognize it before it fully forms. You can tell when someone's kindness is a performance. You can sense when praise is hiding a motive. You don't get seduced by the surface, and that makes people uncomfortable. Because this world is built on performance, on branding, on keeping up appearances. Whole industries, institutions, even relationships rely on people not noticing what's underneath. But you walk in and cut through all of that without even trying. That's threatening. Because when someone can't hide, they feel exposed. And exposure feels like danger to people who have built their lives on pretending. It's not that you're cynical, you're actually searching for what's real. But when the real is buried under layers of performance, you can't help but call it out. Sometimes with words, sometimes just with your presence. And that presence alone disrupts control. Because if people start questioning what you're sensing, they'll eventually start seeing it too. That's why you've been silenced, side-eyed, or shut down. You weren't wrong. You were too right, and too early. You weren't buying the script they were selling, and they couldn't handle that. Because once one person sees the lie, the whole illusion starts cracking. You don't decode lies to expose people. You do it because you were wired for truth. And truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs someone brave enough to see it. Number 5. You disprove the matrix by existing. You've been breaking the unwritten rules since the beginning, not out of rebellion for the sake of it, but because those rules never made sense to you in the first place. They told you what was normal, what was possible, what a realistic life should look like. And while others followed the script, you kept slipping through the cracks, refusing to be defined by limits that didn't belong to you. Every time you chose your own way, you disrupted the machine. The system doesn't know what to do with someone like you. It was built to reward predictability, not authenticity. You're not supposed to question the path, you're supposed to stay in line. But you never really fit the template. You didn't move when they said move. You didn't believe it just because they said it was true. You saw how fake the rules were, how they only served the people at the top, and you decided, no thanks. That alone made you dangerous. You didn't just refuse the script, you rewrote it. While others are still waiting for permission to live, you're out here building things they said were impossible. You think in ways they can't measure, create in ways they can't replicate. And it drives them insane, because every time you win on your own terms, you prove the matrix isn't real. It's just a belief system that falls apart the second someone stops believing in it. They can't categorize you. You don't tick the usual boxes, don't chase the usual goals, don't respond to the usual bait. You're immune to the praise they give to keep people compliant and unbothered by the threats they use to enforce fear. That makes you a glitch. And not just any glitch. A recurring one they can't fix, a reminder that the whole thing is fragile. The moment you chose to be fully yourself without asking for approval, you stopped being part of the program. You became the error message that exposes the lie. And they know it. That's why they keep trying to contain you. But the truth is, you were never meant to be contained. Number 6, your energy rewrites the atmosphere. You don't have to say a word. Your presence speaks first. The moment you walk into a space, something shifts. It's not attitude. It's not ego. It's your energy. And it does what most people are terrified of. It brings the truth to the surface. Real recognizes real, but fake? Fake either runs or reacts. People pick up on your frequency before they even know your name. If they're grounded and open, they feel seen, calm, and even empowered just by being around you. But if they're hiding something, if they've built their lives on image, control, or performance, they feel exposed. Your energy shakes the surface and brings up what they're not ready to face. You don't mean to trigger people. It's not your mission to call people out. But truth carries a charge, and your field is full of it. You're wired to be transparent in a world that thrives on pretending. That transparency cuts through masks, and some people mistake that clarity for aggression. It's not aggression. It's alignment. It's your refusal to dim or fake your way through life that makes people nervous. Because when you stay real, it reminds them that they're not. You don't operate in low vibrations. You don't feed drama. You don't chase approval. That neutrality alone is disarming. Because most people aren't neutral. They're performing. Your calm feels like confrontation to someone who's used to chaos. Your stillness feels like judgment to someone who's constantly pretending. That's why people project their own fears onto you and call you intense, cold, or distant. What they're really feeling is the pressure of their own unprocessed truth bouncing back at them. You didn't choose this effect. You are this effect. You're a natural disruptor, not because you want to shake things up, but because your very existence reveals what's false. And in a world designed to reward fakeness, being undeniably real is the most disruptive thing you can be. Number 7. You trigger generational shadows. You've probably felt it your whole life. Tension in rooms where nothing was said out loud. Discomfort in people's eyes when you were just being yourself. It's not because you were doing anything wrong. It's because your presence pulls things to the surface. Things that have been buried for generations. Pain, dysfunction, denial, secrets. All the stuff no one wants to talk about, but everyone silently carries. You trigger generational shadows, not with words, but just by existing. You weren't born into your family to keep the cycle going, you were born to break it. And breaking cycles doesn't come with applause, it comes with resistance. When you start asking the questions that no one before you dared to ask, when you stop playing the roles others played to survive, it rattles everything. Because in most families, the unspoken rule is, don't rock the boat. You rocked it just by being honest. You see the patterns, the emotional avoidance, the manipulation passed off as love, the guilt used to control, the silence that hides pain. You don't just see it, you feel it. You sense when something's off, even if it's been accepted as normal for years. And when you stop participating in the dysfunction, when you stop pretending not to notice, it threatens those who still depend on the illusion. They may not have the language for it, but they feel it. You challenge the roles they've clung to, the martyr, the victim, the fixer, the avoider. You make them face what they've never healed. That's why you've been misunderstood, cast out, labeled as difficult, dramatic, or rebellious. But what you really are is awake. And awake people force sleepy systems to either evolve or explode. It hurts when that rejection comes from blood, but it's not personal, it's spiritual. Your presence is the beginning of change, and change never shows up quietly. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to be the interruption that makes healing unavoidable. Number 8. They saw it before you did. Long before you had the language to explain what made you different. Other people sensed it. You hadn't even tapped into your power yet, but the spark was there. That spark made people react in ways you didn't understand at the time. Teachers coming down on you harder than necessary. Authority figures treating you like a threat. Relatives side-eyeing you while smiling through their teeth. You weren't acting out, you were just awake. And they felt it. Kids who question things, who don't blindly follow, who carry quiet confidence without needing validation. Those kids scare people who are deeply attached to control. You weren't easy to mold. You didn't buy into fear as fast as they wanted you to. Even when you were silent, your energy said, I see through this. And that alone put a target on your back. You were intuitive before you had a name for it. You were resistant to manipulation before you even knew what it was. You asked questions that made adults uncomfortable, not because you were trying to be disrespectful, but because you genuinely wanted truth. And for people who depended on power imbalances to feel in control, that was dangerous. So they started early. They tried to shrink you through criticism, to confuse you with double standards, to punish your curiosity. They framed your clarity as defiance, your independence as arrogance, your boundaries as disrespect. It wasn't about discipline. It was about dimming something they didn't know how to handle. The sabotage didn't start because you were flawed. It started because you couldn't be shaped the way they wanted. You were unpredictable in a world that fears the unknown. You had a presence that couldn't be owned. And even if you didn't understand what was happening, they did. They saw the light, the potential, the danger to their control structures, and they tried to shut it down before you realized what it was. But you're still here, still seeing, still asking, still unbroken. And now you know what they knew all along. You were never the problem. You were the shift they hoped would never wake up. Number 9. You're immune to manufactured fear. Fear is the currency they trade in, the leash they try to wrap around your mind. But you see fear for what it is, an illusion designed to keep you small, obedient, and predictable. You feel it like everyone else, but you don't let it freeze you or shape your choices. You look it straight in the eye, acknowledge it, and keep moving anyway. That's a rare kind of courage, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Most people live inside the bubble of manufactured fear. It's fed through headlines, gossip, rules, and the constant pressure to conform. Fear convinces them to settle, to stay silent, to avoid risk. But you're wired differently. You understand that fear isn't the enemy, it's the weapon used against you. And recognizing that takes away its power. This immunity isn't something you earned overnight. It's built from surviving storms that would break most people. It's forged through moments where every instinct screamed, run, but you stayed to face the storm. That's why you don't just resist fear, you disarm it. It can't chain you because you've already walked through your worst nightmares and come out standing. This terrifies those who depend on fear to maintain control. If fear stops working, their entire system collapses. They rely on you to stay afraid, to doubt yourself, to buy into the narratives that keep you contained. But you don't. You are unpredictable, uncontrollable, because you refuse to be governed by something so hollow. They want you fearful, because fear makes you manageable. Your immunity means you're a threat. You can't be pushed, manipulated, or silenced easily. And that's why they've been trying to shake you, break you, and scare you since the beginning. But you've already beaten the game by refusing to play by their rules. Fear doesn't own you, and that makes you the most dangerous force they've ever faced. Number 10. Your vision is too clear for comfort. Your vision isn't clouded by hope or fear, it's razor-sharp, painfully clear. You don't just catch glimpses of what's next, you see the whole pattern forming, the hidden agendas, the lies wrapped in truth. You understand how things connect, why they're happening, and where they're heading. That clarity makes people uncomfortable because most live distracted, unaware, or willingly blind. You're not like that. You know what's really going on. It's one thing to sense danger or deceit on a gut level, but you don't stop there. You put words to it. You explain it so clearly that even the skeptics have to pause. That's what makes you dangerous. You don't just warn. You expose, you dismantle, you disrupt. You're not some vague oracle dropping riddles. You're a creator shaping reality with precise understanding and fierce intention. This clarity isolates you. People want easy answers, simple stories, something that doesn't shake their world too much. But you deliver hard truths wrapped in no-nonsense language. And because of that, you're often misunderstood, dismissed, or even feared. You're too much for many to handle, not because you're wrong, but because you're right. That clarity demands responsibility. You can't unsee what you see. You can't ignore the patterns, the manipulations, or the looming crises. And you don't want to. You step into that awareness because you know the alternative is complicity. You don't wait for others to catch up. You move first. You prepare. You create. You shift. Your vision is a weapon and a gift. It's why you're hunted, why you're misunderstood, but also why you're needed. Because the world needs people who see clearly. Not just to survive, but to change everything. Number 11. You collapse false timelines. Every time you reject the script they wrote for you, you're doing more than just making a personal choice. You're shattering illusions. Society hands out neat, predictable paths like a one-size-fits-all uniform, expecting everyone to wear it without question. But you refuse to slip into that mold. Saying no to what's expected isn't just rebellion, it's a rupture in their carefully constructed timeline. These false timelines are like invisible cages, built from what others expect you to be, stable, compliant, predictable. But when you choose differently, when you carve your own way, you create a crack in that cage. It's not just your life that changes, it's the entire system around you that feels the disturbance. That ripple spreads beyond what you realize, making others question the rules they blindly followed. Suddenly the right way doesn't seem so right anymore. They rely on these false timelines because they keep things manageable. If everyone marches to the same drum, control is easy. But you walk to your own beat. You're the glitch in the matrix, the unpredictable variable that throws off the algorithm. That unpredictability scares them because it threatens the illusion of control. Your no isn't a refusal to grow or evolve. It's a declaration of freedom. It's a statement that you refuse to be boxed in by someone else's script. And when you break the pattern, you open doors for others to do the same. Your courage becomes a silent revolution that dismantles what was supposed to be inevitable. This is why you're seen as dangerous, not because you're doing anything violent or loud, but because every choice you make outside the expected timeline is a tiny explosion in the system. You don't just live your life. You collapse the false stories designed to keep everyone else stuck. And that power is terrifying to those who want to keep the world orderly and predictable. Number 12. You reject worth based on validation. You've been around long enough to see how people get trapped chasing validation, titles, likes, applause, status symbols that promise worth but deliver emptiness. You never bought into that game because your sense of value isn't handed to you from the outside. It's rooted deep inside. You know your worth isn't something to be earned from others or measured by their standards. That independence makes you untouchable in a world built on approval seeking. People who thrive on control depend on feeding others illusions of worth to keep them compliant. They hand out praise like candy to keep you hungry for more. They dangle status like a carrot on a stick, hoping you'll chase it and lose yourself in the process. But you don't fall for it. You don't need anyone's stamp of approval to know who you are. You aren't motivated by empty trophies or hollow praise. This makes you uncorruptible, because corruption feeds on ownership. It wants to control you through your ego, your fears, your need to belong. But when your worth is self-defined, no bribe, no manipulation, no fake flattery can shake you. You're immune to their tactics because you're not playing their game. That immunity terrifies those who profit from control. They can't own what won't submit. They can't manipulate what won't bend. So they try harder, escalate pressure, use guilt, shame, or even isolation. But none of it sticks because your foundation isn't built on their fragile approval. You don't need to prove yourself because you already know your truth. That confidence radiates and unsettles those still searching for validation outside themselves. You're a living reminder that true power comes from self-worth, not someone else's applause. And that makes you one of the most dangerous forces in a world addicted to external approval. Number 13. You carry a frequency that can't be cloned. There's something uniquely yours about the way you move through the world, an energy no one else can replicate. People have tried to copy your style, mimic your mannerisms, or package a version of your light to sell back to the masses. But imitation always falls short, because what you carry isn't just surface level. It's coded deep into your being. It's a frequency forged from rebellion against conformity, remembrance of ancestral strength, and raw, unfiltered power that can't be faked or duplicated. This frequency is your signature. It's why when you enter a room, you don't just blend in, you shift the entire vibe. It's why attempts to clone or contain you fail miserably. No matter how hard they try, they can't bottle what you embody because it's built on a foundation of lived experience, hard truths, and a spirit that refuses to be tamed. Your essence carries a history that can't be erased, a memory of battles fought in silence and shadows. It's the echo of every ancestor who refused to bow, every moment you stood tall when the world demanded you kneel. This deep lineage pulses through you, giving you a magnetic force that's impossible to counterfeit. Because your frequency is real, raw, and relentless, it unsettles those who depend on sameness and control. They fear what they can't replicate because it threatens the very system they've built, a system that thrives on copying, conforming, and controlling. But you're the original source, the glitch in their formula, the spark that can't be manufactured or replaced. No clone, no copy, no facsimile can match what you carry. You're one of a kind, encoded with a power so authentic, so fierce, it cannot be cloned or contained. And that makes you endlessly dangerous to those who want a predictable, controlled world. Number 14. Your awakening destroys entire agendas. Your awakening isn't just a personal breakthrough, it's a seismic event that shakes the foundations of everything built on control and deception. When you wake up, something inside you shifts irreversibly. That shift sends out ripples that reach far beyond your own life, touching others in ways they can't ignore. You become a living catalyst for change, a beacon that awakens dormant truths in those around you. This is exactly why they fear you. Because your awakening threatens their entire agenda. The carefully constructed systems designed to keep people compliant, distracted, and divided. They know that once you're fully activated, you won't just be challenging the status quo quietly or behind closed doors. You'll be dismantling it openly, inspiring others to break free from their own illusions and lies. Their attempts to distract you with noise, to discredit you with false narratives, or even to destroy you physically or emotionally are all desperate moves to prevent that chain reaction. They want to keep you fragmented, confused, and isolated because your collective power is their biggest threat. Your clarity makes their deception visible. Your courage makes their fear contagious. But here's the truth they don't want you to realize. Your full activation is not only inevitable, it's unstoppable. Once you cross that threshold, your influence multiplies exponentially. You become a force that can't be silenced, contained, or controlled. Every step you take toward your true self tears apart the veils they've placed over the world, setting others free in the process. You're not just awakening for yourself, you're awakening to shatter chains, to ignite revolutions of thought and spirit. And that's why they've been after you from the start. Because they know that your awakening would do more than disrupt their plans, it would destroy them entirely. You are not here by accident. From the moment you took your first breath, something about you has defied the ordinary, the expected, the controlled. They've sensed it, feared it, and hunted it, not because you're flawed or broken, but because you embody a truth that their entire system is built to suppress. You are a living paradox to the carefully constructed illusions of control, unstoppable yet unseen, powerful yet misunderstood, authentic yet relentlessly hunted. This is your reality, one that few dare to acknowledge, let alone embrace. But here's the secret they don't want you to fully grasp. Your very existence is the greatest threat to every false narrative, every lie spun to keep the masses in chains. You carry a frequency so unique and undeniable that it cannot be cloned, corrupted, or controlled. It ripples through the world, exposing the cracks in their matrix and awakening others who have been quietly waiting for someone like you. You don't just break rules, you collapse entire systems of thought. You don't merely survive the battles, they forge you into a force that can't be ignored. Your clarity of vision, your immunity to fear, your refusal to seek validation, and your ability to disrupt generational shadows make you an agent of transformation. You are the glitch in the machine, the spark that ignites revolutions in the unseen spaces between hearts and minds. The resistance you face is not a sign of weakness, but a marker of your power. The misunderstanding, the rejection, the sabotage, they all confirm one undeniable truth. You are a force too real, too awake, too dangerous to be allowed to exist comfortably. But comfort was never your destiny. Your awakening is not just a personal evolution, it's a catalyst for global transformation. So stand firm in your power. Own the disruption you bring. Celebrate the clarity you carry. Because when you fully activate, you don't just change your world, you liberate entire generations, rewrite the future, and destroy every agenda built on fear and control. You are not just the chosen one, you are the unstoppable one, and the world will never be the same because of you. If this message resonated with you, if you feel the fire of truth stirring inside, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and join a community that's awake, unshakable, and ready to disrupt the status quo. Like the video to amplify this energy. Drop a comment to share your experience or your awakening story, and share this with those who need to hear it most. Every like, every comment, every share is a ripple that breaks the chains of silence and sparks real change. Together, we're not just watching the future unfold, we're creating it. So let's rise, connect, and transform. Subscribe now and be part of the movement that refuses to be controlled. Stay blessed always.